You guys are in for a treat today. We have the dynamic duo of Harmony Harvest. Welcome, y'all, to the Flower Podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much for having us out. It is our pleasure to be here today.
Yes,
Well,
it is. Thank you. We've known each other for a while, and I'm glad we finally get to hang out again.
I know. We first met at a flower stock back in 2019 before the world fell apart. So, yeah.
That's great. Yes, those were the days.
I know. Well, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but I know recently when we did the interview with Dave Dowling, the topic of mums came up. And so I really want to hone in on this because, I'm sitting here flipping through a Southern Living and I'm like, who do I see? But the mums from Harmony Harvest and the whole family. So, I think that's awesome. And so that just kind of between Dave, I feel like this is the time to really, everyone needs to be thinking about this and planning for next year. And this is the perfect time to do it. So I'm
Yep,
really,
yep.
yeah, I'm so glad.
This is the crop that I think is up and coming and is going to be around for a while and really is going to give American farmers of all sizes entry to play. This can really have one crop can have a very powerful impact, I think, on our presence in the U.S. flower market. And there are some beautiful varieties out there that are just waiting to kind of have their moment to shine.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, and I'll share some stories later too. And I've got some questions because I had something happen that I'll tell you about it in a minute. Before, can you guys briefly kind of give us a history of how Harmony Harvest started and just kind of give us, I know a lot of people probably follow you and already know, but just in case it's someone new, I want to make sure they know.
Okay, since you said the word brief, I'm tapping out. Go.
Okay, that's fair because yeah, she's not brief. So let's see. Jess and I went to college and ended up living together in college. She was studying horticulture, I was studying business, and then after college, she moved back to the valley, got a big fancy job working for like a greenhouse supply company, and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and got a big fancy job in marketing. Well, Jess is like, I don't like working for the corporate. I want to do my own thing. So her and mom bought, and our dad and her husband bought a farm, and she we were at the beach one year, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to grow. They tried green beans, wasn't a go. And mom just says, where do florists get flowers? And Jess goes, oh my God, I can totally grow flowers. And I'm like over there, meanwhile, just basking, like reading a magazine, like I ain't like, good luck, y'all. So fast forward into 26. So that was in 2013 that the farm started. We were largely doing weddings and things. Then in 2016, Jess says, I want to ship flowers. And I was like, okay, you're going to ship flowers, you need like a website. You're going to have to be an e-com business, and you don't know anything about that. Then also by happenstance that year, we purchased the last remaining metal flower frog company in the United States, and Floral Genius was born. At which point, I ate every word that ever came out of my mouth about not moving back to work on the flower farm, and I moved back to work on the flower farm. So that was 2018. So that was in 2018. So then we were shipping a lot of flowers wholesale across the country. We were doing a lot of weddings. We were doing bouquets and Whole Foods up and down the East Coast. Things were great. And then COVID happened and all of our revenue streams stopped. So we furloughed our staff. Jess and I decided to just start shipping bouquets direct to consumer. We changed our entire business in 30 days. Our team came back and was like, holy crap, what happened? And we realized that like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. It was literally like us exhausted, but like handwriting the notes that went in these bouquet boxes from people being like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hug you on your birthday. And like, oh, I can't wait to see you again. And all these things that we were like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So that happened. and kind of along, so ever since then we've been really B2C.
And then people who got our bouquets from all across the country started showing up at
the farm.
That wasn't really.
And we're a production farm, and we're like, oh my God, they want to come here. Oh my God. So yeah.
So this year we decided, screw it. It's just as beautiful in real life as it is on Instagram.
Really is.
So we opened the farm to the public, made the gardens available and accessible, opened up our heritage barn for people to lounge and do DIY activities. And in July, opened up a storefront on the farm that has been wildly busy and fun. Crazy. And learning how to have a retail store has been wild.
It has been wild because, what's cool is that you get this retail store and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to put everything in here I love. And then when you buy all this stuff and you put it up, you're standing back and looking at it and being like, oh my God, I hope I have good taste. Because you have no idea, right? Like you have no idea. Yes. And then people come in and they like, it's really up to them. Like what you like doesn't matter. But it's really what other people like. But we were pretty good. I think we have pretty darn good taste.
Correct. So essentially the moral of the story is if you want the elevator spiel, it better be a really long ride.
You better be going from like floor 1 to floor 80.
That's pretty much like catch you up where we are. So we ship flowers nationwide. The farm is open. We do lots of workshops and events. Mm-hmm. We completely changed how we did weddings because we want to do everything for everyone. Our true core vision and mission of everything we do is to help folks discover a better life through flowers, and doing big weddings limited us. So we put everything on the website, a la carte style, and all of our weddings are now picked up on the farm. And we have a really engaged wedding clientele that kind of has rolled over and fit right into this new system for us. It's allowed us more flexibility. We get to engage with people now that we have a retail storefront, and we have our site set on chrysanthemums. So, we don't like to be bored.
No. Oh yeah, we still have Little Genius. That's going great.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine you guys are ever bored, ever. And so I'm curious though. So does any of your business still sell wholesale, or is it all consumer based? So you do a combination.
No, we still sell. Yeah, we still have bulk flower boxes that we ship wholesale, that we offer wholesale, and of course all the flower frogs are all wholesale. So you can find all of those by creating a wholesale account at hhfshop.com.
Yeah. And, truly, we want everyone to discover a better life. And so having the farm open even gives our wholesale clients a different experience with engaging with us, kind of understanding some of the other rhythms than just, we can ship the flowers, we can get them where you need them, but you can also kind of see what behind the scenes looks like. And sometimes that is just, it makes it feel a little bit more authentic. You can talk to the team.
I have a very committed belief that, if you teach people how to grow flowers and teach them, really kind of give them the tools they need to do it themselves, right? They'll quickly realize that they don't want to, and that it's really hard. Some of them won't. Good on them. But a lot of times they'll be like, no, you grow the flowers. I'll just come to them. And we're like, thought so.
Yeah, that's the way it works. No, I totally feel that. So I get that. So going back to moms, let's dive into this. So whose idea was it to start with the World of Moms?
Okay, this is my number one favorite flower, ride or die. Chrysanthemums have my heart. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that I learned a lot about how to be a grower and how to be a flower farmer with that one specific crop. It tends to have a lot of grace and patience for us beginning farmers. And it's a crop that you tend to virtually year round. So you truly are vested in kind of seeing this crop all the way through the life cycle. And there's so much history and just I have been on a whole mom journey, and it pains me and breaks my heart how much digging I've had to do to find out about the world of chrysanthemums, from just the history and the culture of the flower to the breeding and the popularity over time, and how things have shifted and evolved in our industry. And I'll be darned if I let somebody else face those frustrations. So for me, the discovery and path that I'm on with chrysanthemums, I am all about sharing and preserving and trying to make something really relevant again. And I do feel like this could be our easy entry as domestic flower farmers to take back a large sector. This is a crop that we can all play with, and it's a major crop. And the diversity, the really beautiful bits of it have been lost over time. So it is the perfect opportunity for us to showcase just that.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I've shared this before on the podcast that I follow people in all kinds of time zones all around the world. And the mums that I see grown in other parts of the world are, some of them are ridiculous. I mean, they're just so fast. I mean, they're just amazing. And what we get out of South America is such a tiny fraction of that palette. And I know they've tried expanding a lot of that over the past probably 5 years, but it's still a long way. And I think some of that's because of shipping, some of that's because of distribution, some of that is because, a lot of these farms in South America, their main clientele are box stores or wire service type companies. And it's just kind of like how the local farmer was able to take dahlias, bring them back. Everyone got excited about them again. And we didn't have to rely on the shipping chains and the floral chains to move them, because we could get them from our local, suppliers, local farmers. And they came back with a vengeance. And now it's this huge crop. Well, that doesn't have to be the only one, right? And mums, I think, are definitely the next one. When did you start with mums? How long have?
Oh my gosh!
When did this journey begin? Okay.
It's been over a decade. Like, it was one of those first things that when you're a beginning flower farmer, and you've decided you're adopting that title in life, and you're like, I'm gonna grow this and this and this. It was one of the first things that I brought to the farm, and I'll never forget that first small box of those little cuttings. And I look back at some of the pictures those first years when we would have plants, and my husband and I would spend late nights propagating the next rotation of cuttings together over top of sleeping kids. I have really learned how to grow and to grow my business all with this crop. And even in the flower farming world, and those of us that are looking for varieties, there's still just a small handful of even the specialty that still exist, when I think we would be floored to know the hundreds of varieties that have been lost over time, or that only reside in very small private collections. Our team is on a whole mission to preserve and save, and really acquire, and try to work to bring these back to market. But there's just so much beauty. And I think the other thing is, beyond the fact that this pushes our season, like, this is the grand finale. Like, it really is. It's the show stopping. It runs right up, really, with protection. This crop goes right to Thanksgiving. So it carries us right into the holiday swell. And I think when dahlias stop, and we start leaning into the dried, but there's that awkward window, and how do we fill the Thanksgiving need? And the mom, they hit it, they bring it home between the color palettes. Like, there's just not a lot of other flowers that give that level of saturation and almost shimmery iridescence in the blooms, the different type of blooms available. Like, you can put them toe to toe to dahlias. I think they knock dahlias out of the park every time. We also have to look at vase life. Like, I have a high-end design, where there's like minimal water, right? That's going on 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm going to have to just get rid of this. Like, I can't even, I'm bored and it won't die. So the vase life is incredible, which helps us whether we're doing these big event installations or we want to really trust all of those farmer market bouquets that are going out the door, wedding designs. But from a farming perspective, they have an amazing harvest window as well. So there's a lot of grace for you to kind of learn what is the perfect stage, because they have a lot of play, as early as you can take those blooms, and then as late as you can get them. So I love them because they have so much grace to help us bring a really beautiful crop to market. And the beauty is, as American growers, like, we can be more agile. We can shift. We can provide what the market wants much faster than relying on the import and commercial farms that are not just growing for our demand. They're growing based on global demand and what is going to make large scale off-seas production money sense. That's not going to be the same thing for us growing here. So this just opens up another door where we can really play and play well.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I feel like you just touched on a huge point that dahlias don't bring to the table, and that is longevity and durability. And this checks all the boxes, especially if you're a shipper like you guys shipping, nationwide for both consumers or for wholesale. It's easier to ship too. Now, on that, there's so many questions I have. So, okay. So I want to talk about one thing before we get into sort of a little more nitty gritty. In a lot of these countries that have year-round production, they do a lot of playing, I know, with shade cloth or light and things like that to trick them into blooming, because you have to, because they're day length sensitive. And so obviously, do you feel like we'll ever get to a point where in the US this is going to be just fun? I mean, because there's so many great colors that would be great in the spring or the summer.
That's what I'm saying. This is our best entry to market, because I love the seasonality of it, right? Like I am a seasonal grower at heart, and it is Mumtober for me, and we live in it in November, right? But I'm also a smart cookie, and I see the future of what we could all do collectively. And this is a crop that the US market could bring to the table all year round. It is daylight sensitive. So in different varieties, we'll respond differently.
Well, would you explain that? Because I know I just said it, and you're the best person I know right now to answer that.
Okay, so as the days get shorter, the buds start initiating. So when we start having less daylight hours, the plant says, hey, my time to shine is coming. So like we're in dark 30 anymore, and the plants are in, so we're working with lights, and we're working with shade structure or shade cloth. Think about like how we have beautiful poinsettias in December. There's a lot of light tricks that big growers will do. And when I say big growers, not huge growers, but people that have structures and greenhouses. So this is someone that if you were like, I am literally growing on my square footage in my backyard with some light protection, you can absolutely grow mums and extend your season. If you're like, I have greenhouses, and in fact, I do poinsettias, so I have blackout curtains, this is a crop that you can really produce. So I think there's a lot of play here. That's why it gets me so excited. The availability that we have to enter back into our own market. And wouldn't it be cool? Let's all dream big for a minute. Wouldn't it be cool if the US got really well known for these beautiful mums, and we were my mouth, we were exporting from the US mums? Could you imagine if we could turn the tables? But this is a crop that I feel totally has that kind of play. And what that means is all of us can do it. All of us can play. There's so much diversity. We can hit the market hard with these beautiful chrysanthemums. And right now, while we're fighting on our own market, you hit the nail on the head. What's coming in, what they're seeing at the grocery store, or what the florist has access to, are not these unique and beautiful ones. We're working to get there, but the timeline is much longer. So that gives us an easy point of entry.
Yeah, I agree. And they and they definitely, what dictates a lot of the South American growers is these, you know, huge mega companies that are very slow to transition, and I think this is great. So I want to start, I want to pretend like this is kind of mom 101 here.
Okay.
Now there are different kinds of moms,
There are.
and I know there's like a gazillion actually, but I mean, can we just break them down into the main groups? That way people listening kind of know where to start.
Yeah. Okay. So most people, the mums that we're talking about that we're all like falling in love with are going to be what we all lovingly call the heirloom chrysanthemums. Okay. These are not garden mums. These are not also called hardy mums. These are not pot mums. Okay. I would consider these to be more of a specialty tender perennial. Okay. Tender perennial. So not long lived forever from that first generation. There are also, like I said, hardy garden mums. These are a lot of the ones I would love to say are sold in the garden centers and come back every year. But sometimes I question if that's really what they're selling us. The pot mums are what we see the most of, and those are going to be your dome ball shaped ones. They're quick. They can do them fast turn in the grocery store, and that's kind of what's dominated the market. Okay. Now there's probably tens of thousands of different varieties of mums across all the spectrums. And I have recently, just doing my digging, have learned that a lot of consolidation happened over the years.
Yeah.
Ball and Syngenta are the largest sellers, brokers of mum material. And over time, when the businesses were all buying each other and selling out, a lot of the mums that we love, where there was licensed options available. So sometimes breeders spend a lot of money bringing a plant to market, and then we all have to pay a fun little royalty to grow it. And then there's others who like, no, that's been there forever. We can all just have at it. The ones that had all of the research behind them, the licensed ones, they weren't really what they saw as the big trend. Clearly, it was pot mums. So they got rid of those genetics. So most of them were sold to other countries internationally, but no longer in the US as far as licensed material, which means for us, if we're going to be looking at big growers to supply these, we have to find genetics that we can quarantine and bring back into the US. Like that is a whole thing.
Right.
So if we look at these tender perennials, which have really been held tightly in the chrysanthemum show and society world, thank goodness they've done the work of preserving these, because if it wasn't for these true lovers of this cultivated plant, we just wouldn't have some of these fun varieties still here. But there's a lot of unlicensed material. It's just so scattered throughout the US and in private hands. And those are the ones that we can share and we can trade. And like I said, they're not long lived forever perennials, although I'm testing some of them. And we're on like year 9.
There's like that whirl away.
There's a few varieties like we just can't make disappear. But we propagate new plant material to work off of every year. And we've gotten really good kind of with our rhythms of being able to replicate and reproduce large volumes of these heirloom mums. So it's our desire to really help preserve, cultivate, and make available all of these that I think have the ability to really shake the ground of American floriculture.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm excited about it because I feel like this is such a staple in floristry all across the board. You know, you don't have to educate florists on chrysanthemums.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to sell them on longevity. You don't. There's a lot of education that's been done. You don't have
Yes.
to redo. It's just making them, aware. Now, I can see where one of the issues could be price. Like for example, when the local grower that I deal with, and I'll do a shout out to her, Erica Penn.
Woo!
Yeah, she's great. Brought me these first mums. I was a little nervous because I didn't know what to expect, and they performed really well. And which that didn't surprise me. It was how are customers going to respond to a new price point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we couldn't keep them. So it was like that wasn't an issue because they sold themselves. And I feel like that sometimes though, people, that's a hurdle for people.
Right.
And especially when you start talking about, okay, well, you're paying, I mean, this is the other thing people don't realize, like you're paying royalties or you're paying, whatever
Yep.
that is.
Yes.
So, and then the labor that goes into some of these disbuds, for example, to get those bigger heads and things. So
and one thing, let me also throw in there. So I talked about what the pot mums are used for. Our trial that we ran this past year with Ball actually trialed 35 pot mum varieties to see if they would cut the mustard. And we are some like critical girls. And we definitely left them with lots of notes of where they need to like step it up and go find better. But there are some super attractive things that I think are going to help kind of marry the bridge. So I wouldn't turn away from some of what the breeders are doing to help us kind of right the ship. And here's the other benefit I'm going to say from a grower perspective, having the heirloom and having the licensed plants, having both. There are two very different type of growth habits, and for the ease of production for that licensed material, I think it's worth investing in so that we can get some of those better bloom flowers performing like that for farmers. And we need to continue to buy license and support programs so that we can get these old varieties as strong and as quickly performing, so that we really have a chance to play strong in the market. Right now, we will be evaluating this final trial and putting together our top list of performers where folks can get kind of the top trial mums through us in the spring. And then we'll be coming to market as well with a really robust heirloom program so that folks can have access to these flowers. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So when people, let's say I'm a farmer or I can be a home gardener and I want to dive into this or at least maybe do some of my own trials. And I go to your website and I want to say when it's up and when the cuttings are live, we'll say, and what can we expect? Like you get like, I don't know, 10 cuttings to 100 cuttings, like, or is it by the single cutting? I mean, how does that work? And then can you walk us through kind of once we get those cuttings, kind of what can we expect and what's that's like? Yeah.
No, so the first thing I would suggest is definitely go over to hhfshop.com and get on our mum wait list. So the second that our plant availability goes live, everybody has access to that. Last year, we offered January bare root, and it was wonderful. We have grown with so many people. We're definitely leveling up the game this year to provide certified cuttings. And and so these are going to be ordered in January. They're going to have a spring ship window, and we're working on how we want to curate these for both the homeowners. We want everybody to have access. So whether you're a homeowner and you're like, dude, I just want a couple of pots with some of these cool mums, or I have to make like 10 bazillion Thanksgiving bouquets. I need like a lot. We want to give some different options for that. So while the details we're not going to share today as far as order minimums, we're going to have it set up so that it's easy for everybody. We're also going to be mindful kind of these bloom windows. You know, the chrysanthemums have, they're a crop that break down into 3 different bloom windows: early, mids, and lates. And we understand that some climates just can't do the late outdoors unprotected, and we're carrying farmers. So we're going to make sure that all of that is really clear so that people can kind of customize based on where they're growing and what their experience is.
Sure.
And we would never leave a man down with mums. So we also have just put the updated touches on our chrysanthemum growing course, and it kind of walks you through a full year of growing chrysanthemums from, oh my gosh, the boxes showed up, like legit, what do? Do I open this? Do I chuck it in the fridge? Do I like give them CPR? What do I do? So we try to make sure that we set everybody up for success to enjoy the crop right along with us. And like I said, this is a really interactive project plant. That's what I tell my kids. It's a project plant. So great. Because there are fun things we get to do and look for and discover every week, every month along the growing season with them. And we really like to highlight and show that in our course. So I would definitely recommend going over to the wait list. If you want to get a head start by taking the course, it tells you exactly how we do it at the farm. And it tells you why we don't propagate these and why we do propagate these and how. Oh my gosh, how do we make all of those babies? And how do we take care of that crop so that they are blooming and protected? And I did not ignore you earlier when you said the word disbud. I just disapprove of that word. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, and I'm also gonna add too that, like, you know, as we develop, like, really, you know, put our mum products for 2023 in boxes, it is all driven by all the feedback that the questions that we've had, and the way that people, you know, have told us that they want to buy mums, and they want to buy cuttings, and it's from the gardeners, and it's from the flower farmers, and it's from, you know, we had a 94-year-old woman call us and say, I don't have email. Can I write you a letter to get on the mom wait list? And I'm like, yes, I will make sure that you get plants. Oh my God. But really, like, it's understanding more than just understanding moms. It's understanding what people need, right? Like, what's the need out there? Because I think that just like providing plants in a way that doesn't really help anybody doesn't really help anybody.
No. And I want to say, like, for us, it's really important for me as we move this all forward that this feels very much like a community. We have built an amazing community, and like a community project, like everything else that we undertake. But all of the people that are entrusting us with plants that they've kept going for many, we're highlighting these folks. We have lots of stories to share. Everybody's going to play a very visible part in this. I think that we as a team have a lot of power. And if I just have the facilities to like lead the charge, why not? So for us, we're going to make sure that, you know, January feels a little different than maybe what our options are, and that we can hold some hands and really create a team-led approach where we can all bring this crop back together. And, you know, we're party girls. So I can tell you every November, we're going to be doing the virtual summit and the in-person showcase and having a huge mom festival. So like, I think this is just a really beautiful, this could be a really beautiful story for all of us.
Yeah, I love that. So when you talk about early, mid, and late varieties, how long are those windows?
So it's about 2 weeks, and that everything that we have documented, we like to share is based on 6B, our zone and where we are. But we find that each of those windows is 2 to 3 weeks. for each one. And there is sometimes varieties that'll kind of ride the line and fall in a weird gray area between two. But it's kind of, it helps us to know what the sequence of the blooms are. And I will also say, I've been very shocked. The late bloomers, and I kind of am intrigued, maybe this is another trial. The late bloomers, they seem to not be nearly as affected by the colder temperatures. Now, again, 6B, but we've had like 28-degree nights, and maybe a tad lower. They're in houses and they're covered. But even
are the houses heated?
No.
Okay.
Now, I do have temporary heaters, but I played Russian roulette last night and didn't turn them on, and the recording was 27, and literally none of the late bloomers were affected. And we were in there really looking hard, and I keep digging, and I find these old books, before everything was digital, on chrysanthemums, and I'm finding like that's a strong characteristic of what got bred in for hardy chrysanthemums that we were using in landscapes. So I'm like, I think these are a wild bridge between a few. And I just feel like they're so magical, and they're kind of untouched over the years. And like, how cool that we could save these. And also seeing the ability, this is a plant that could be bred. Like, maybe the US can bring some new varieties to market too. Let's figure out what we love and what's missing, and turn the tables.
Well, on that note, I want to ask you this question. So I had some of the mums that I got from my local person that I had behind me. And what happens sometimes with these flowers behind me is I get done recording and I leave the office and I forget about them, right? And so then I come back up to the office, I don't know, a week or 10 days later, because I typically this time of year don't work up here as much. And those mums were crispy. I mean, they were crispy. They had run out of water, they were drying, and lo and behold, underneath my mums, can you hear that?
Seeds.
There were seeds everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even saw mum seeds before, I don't think, because it's always propagated. And I just think, and you just think, I'm like, I've got to play with these. And my friend Erica wants to play with them too, because it's like, we don't even know. I mean, like, we're just now like having this renaissance with dahlia breeding and zinnias and all these other things. Why not mums? I mean,
but like the beauty of this, like same, like come with me. I see you on the same path. Come here, because I found there's also some community colleges that continue to do these fun mum programs for their introductory hort classes. I found Smith College actually does a breeding program every year, and they have catalogs since the 20s.
What?
All the varieties that these kids have done. There's so many worlds of discovery here in the chrysanthemums, and we have cool stuff. We just have to dig it up, collect it, and make it available. So I think there's some really I think there's some really cool stories that are going to come out of the future of chrysanthemums. And I think we can all kind of ride this wave and find our place with this beautiful crop that could save floral America.
Yeah. Now, I totally agree. I mean, because, the funny thing is I made this prediction, and it might not be happening quite as quickly as I thought it was going to be. So I might have to revise my prediction. But, as we've seen cannabis legalized in so many, states, and I've been looking in the empty greenhouses in California that used to grow Gerbers and now are switching to cannabis and all this. And as it becomes more legalized, I can totally see South America, where it's a weed, no pun intended, go ahead and
saturate that market.
Go ahead and like, why are we growing these cheap mums? We could be growing cannabis again. And eventually this is going to be, I just feel like there is going to be a day when we put all our eggs in that basket, and now we can't even import mums from Europe or Japan or these other places because of diseases they they have to be certified to come in.
Mhm.
And I just feel like this is a much bigger deal than I think I can even wrap my brain around.
Right. I'm so excited. I'm glad you're on this fun little journey with me.
It is. And it's like when you have to be around the right people to really talk about it, because obviously if you're not a flower farmer, like you start, like if you're not a flower person and you start like talking about like, mums and the global, like all of these like big hairy things, they look at you like you're freaking crazy.
Yes, I see that a lot.
We can really do it, guys. Like if we all pull together, like this is how we change our own industry. And I really feel like this is the crop that could do it. Like I feel like if we want to go toe to toe, let's take out one of the big three. And that's the one we can play with. Forget the roses. Carnations, I've been down, I have tried. I'm not gonna die. That's not the hill I'm dying on. Chrysanthemums, I'll go down on that one.
Yeah.
I have to admit, the roses that come out of Ecuador are just
okay. You have those.
They're beautiful. I don't like roses. I'm just saying. I'm going on record saying I want everybody to know I don't like roses. I don't like sunflowers. But I mean, Ecuador has the best climate.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, we do live in a global economy, and we are going to see stuff from all around the world.
And we should.
But we haven't seen, like, what could America be known as? What could be our crop to contribute?
We deserve to have something.
We do. So let's take this one and ride it hard. Like, I think this could be a really beautiful way for all different size growers to really fall in love with the crop. And like I said, they're actually incredibly easy, from propagating on the heirlooms to even the growing on needs of them. You need a lot of water and a lot of food. They're like Miss Piggies, and they grow in the hottest time of the year. So you really have to be mindful of that. But we run a pretty tight schedule that we share in our course. If there is one date that everyone should have cemented in their brain, I know I do now. I don't care where you live. No.
What?
You didn't pay attention in Mum Summit. You do not plant anything after June 15th. Remember, Dave?
Oh yeah, Dave did stuff.
Does the day start getting?
That's pinching.
Yeah. So, okay, you just touched on this, and I've got to ask this question. When you hear, because of other things like roses and other things like that, when you say the word heirloom, I think that some people immediately think they're probably more finicky or more delicate. And I don't know that that's the case, because some of these varieties are just, some of them I think are tougher, like you talked about with some of the late versions. So do people need to think about heirloom versus these more current varieties when they're choosing? I would say
the growth habit is different. The blooms, the longevity of the blooms, not so much. And the growth habit is not different across the board. I'll say there's some varieties like Kelvin Mandarin or Kelvin Tattoo that produce just like some of the licensed product on the market. And they're heirloom, and they're beautiful. They're abundant, lot easy to grow, good dense crop, good usable stems. And then there are all of those football ones that we love, and they're not licensed. There's no genetic upgrades through licensed material. And you'll find they're slower to propagate. They might grow a little bit more spindly. They don't have the branching for a lot of cuts per plant, different things like that. You'll also see a myriad of different types of foliage, from very small lanceolated little delicate leaves to very large, almost oak leaf shaped leaves. So it's the canopy and the spectrum of what the growth habit looks like is very diverse in the heirlooms, because we haven't played around with those. We haven't bred them, made them stronger, put them on they're kind of just as they were. And the newer varieties have all the things that make it easier for us to grow flowers. But they have not brought us the bloom at the very top that we want. It's kind of like if we could just cut these off and find the honey hole of cold glue over here,
So
I think that, what I will say is that, like, maybe from a growing standpoint, that the heirlooms might be, just a different, but I think from hardiness of bloom, like the hardiness of the actual
plant
cut flower
or the plant itself
is
yeah. So some of these we've worked into even landscape, and they just come back.
Oh my God.
And they grow out of cracks, and we're like, is that another mum?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We keep like ripping them out, and then like a few weeks later we're like, what is
that? But if you were thinking like mums, like I go pick my pumpkins and tight little balls, they're very open and loose and wild. And so these are not going to give you your formal gardens, but they're going to give you that back edge of beauty for the cottage garden look. They're a different jive. And I will also say, if you grow them and you get them in the ground, like we said, by June 15th, and you love on them with food and water, these plants can get taller than you. Like they can get incredibly large.
Wow.
So yeah, we recommend netting.
We do recommend netting, trellising.
Definitely netting and trellising.
A corral. Playpen. Like
they need a playpen, and they definitely
need boundaries.
Netted.
Yes.
Sure. And if you follow us on Instagram, we have some reels about that, for sure. Because it's like the same thing with dahlias and lysianthus. They just, shoot up and go wild. And, if you won't be able to get through your rows at all.
Yeah.
And then you'll have kind of weird stems, which we love. Okay. Don't get it twisted. We like the weird, crazy stems, but
they make it a little hard for us to do, the bouquet prepping and the order delivering and all that fun stuff. So like as far as growth habit, there's a lot of diversity that you'll see amongst all the different varieties, but nothing challenging. I also love the fact that the chrysanthemum contains natural derivatives that are used in a lot of insect repellents.
Yeah, so when you read like pyrethrins and stuff like that on there, that's from mums, right?
Right. It's from the same family. And what I'm going to say is that does not mean that they are like, they have a superpower force and bugs can't get to them, but they seem to have less issues. Now, of course, there are bugs out there, and when it gets cold, they're going to go to the only thing that looks nice, and that, so like now you see bugs. But as far as your growing season, if you we do just a lot of scouting, and very, very, very minimal spray. It's just an easy crop to grow and grow organically and feel good about. And because they have that, I like to believe, because all the plants put good vibes out there for all the other plants. So like in August, when they're like, I'm growing and being my best little mom self, and I'm going to bloom in a few months, that they're just giving off like pheromones to keep the bugs away from all of the crops that are blooming next door. So, I like to think that's like a really good.
I think that's a load of crap, but
that's
no, fine.
I don't think that's a load of crap. I think they definitely give off good pheromone vibes and keep the bugs away from other plants.
Okay. Well, I'll let the listeners decide on that one.
Yeah. Okay. That's not founded. That's literally only like what I dream up in my head.
But I mean, there is a whole science behind companion planting.
Yeah. And they are a great companion plant. I don't think it travels from one greenhouse to the next like that.
Of course not.
But you know what? In my little fairy tale world, I can believe that.
You do you.
That's right. That's right.
He does.
But we pinch our plants up until right around the middle of July is when we're done pinching. And we have not disbudded, which means there are two different ways you can disbud mums. Mums are going to grow with a whole bunch of blooms. Okay. And there's definitely a center bloom, and you can leave that one center bloom and take all the other ones off and continue to pop them off as they grow, so that the plant puts all its energy into making one insanely large monster flower. And they are beautiful and worth their weight in gold, as they should be.
Right.
The other way of disbudding is actually to remove the center or the center few flowers, and it opens up your spray a little bit more so that you can have medium-sized flowers that maybe are a little bit more airy on the stem. If you don't disbud, you end up with a really a glob of color, and that's my jam. But
they look like little bouquets, like ready to go.
I love it. Okay. But different strokes, different folks. So there's different ways that we can even modify one category of bloom type, just by how we're growing it. And we're gonna run trials every year, so maybe disbudding will be like, we have a whole list of what could next year's trial be,
Right.
whether that's season, early, mid, late, whether that's a color spectrum, whether that's like the football mums or disbudding. And we like to share that information. Like, I think the important, I do not have all the answers. And I think it's foolish to believe that any of us do. We are working with Mother Nature, so every day is a science experiment. I'm just willing to show you what's going on with mine.
Sure. No, and I think that's great. I mean, that's a great place to start for all of us.
Yeah.
I know I heard, do you grow like stock plants in one area and then in the greenhouses, or do you have a whole house that's devoted to stock plants? Or, I'm just trying to get a feel for, I know you have a lot of acreage, like 20 acres or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And
we do, and we just keep adding greenhouses left and right. Somebody please take the Lady Monarch or my mother's credit card away.
It's her fault. Like it's mom. It's mom. She's like, oh well, there's another greenhouse. They're coming. I have on the schedule. We're on the schedule for next spring. We're on the schedule for next month. It's not us. It's her. So if she ever tries to tell you that we're the ones spending all the money, she's a dirty liar.
But we're all just infatuated with the mums, and we want to make sure we have lots of houses for our mum collection. No, we actually keep many stock plants of each variety, and so we work with our state as well, make sure everything's tested, clean. We feel really good about our plant material, and we keep all of our mothers. We're waking them up right now, and we'll start taking cuttings. And we also we're big on collaborating, and we're big on community. So we are working with another grower in our area to help us with all of our rootings, so that we have another facility that is set up to kind of do the swath of what we're trying to achieve.
That's awesome. That's really great.
Yeah.
Do you grow everything in the ground?
So all of our cuts we grow in the ground. Our stock material is all grown in container, and
Container, like pots, or like
a pot, like a crate, or a 1 gallon pot, or a half gallon pot. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes a milk jug. Listen, that's how it all started. It's not that far from how it feels very technical, and I'm very proud of where we are and where we're on the cusp of. But it's not that different, So we're taking our one baby plant, and we put them in the nice warm greenhouse, and that used to be my bathroom back before there was a greenhouse. And we get them growing all nice. You talk to them every day. You want to hang out in the warm bathroom or warm greenhouse. And we start taking about 2-inch cuttings off the plant and rooting those out. And we grow all of our crop then in ground, in tunnels, and in fields. Because we do have the privilege of space. And I want to know, just like everybody else wants to know, well, I don't have a greenhouse. Will that live outside? I'm like, well, I can tell you if it will here, at least. So we like to trial things and really have a big, impressive crop. We also, because we are now open to the public, have mom gardens that are pick your own. So there's lots of need for us to have lots of beautiful mums all the time.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. So if you have some in the field, some in the greenhouse, if you have the same variety in both locations, do you notice that some of them bloom earlier just because they're faster, producing? Do you have the ability to stagger a early, mid, late season variety by by doing that, or is it pretty much not really a big difference?
It's more on the daylight. So
Okay.
I will tell you that they have performed outside just fine. We have found that they do much better in shade. That is kind of critical if you're doing it field. We have found not necessarily critical on houses, but it definitely affects them. So we will always be growing under a shade cloth, or maybe moving to a field that gets a little bit of secondary shade. We still had usable crop, but they weren't where we wanted them to be. And that was a fun little lesson to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I how many varieties are you guys growing?
Oh my gosh. Okay, do you want
I looked today at how many heirlooms there were, and I think there's like 90.
We're getting close.
90 heirlooms.
The goal, like Mom wants to have like hundreds. Okay.
Yeah.
Like she's on this whole bender. But the idea, I'm telling you, is so bad. Like we're gonna have to make sure she doesn't get hooked into starting to show chrysanthemums.
Different.
Because
she should show chrysanthemums.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Well, okay, first of all, I just want to put this on record because we're gonna need this like in the future potentially. If our mother shows up at a chrysanthemum show with an entry, she did not grow it.
Yeah, that is true.
I just like our mother cannot grow crap.
So that was grown by us.
I just put it on the record because if she shows up at one of these places, I wanted somebody to be like, I
don't think you're allowed to enter that.
I remember listening to an episode on the Flower podcast 10 years ago, and we were told that you probably didn't grow that.
Yeah.
So I just
maybe she'll enter it. Maybe
on
she'll
the internet and in the universe.
Maybe she'll enter it under your name. Maybe that's what she'll do.
Oh my gosh! Don't even give her fodder. That's what she would do.
Okay, Lady Monarch, you heard it here. You've got permission to enter the show. Just make sure you're using Jessica's name as the entry, and then you'll. Yeah, there you go.
But as we kind of acquire this collection and build it out, it's important for us to continue to share those stories and keep the people who kind of contribute to this a part of that, and make this really feel like something we're all doing together. So yeah, it's a wild, fun ride that's been moving very quickly for all of us, and we're some excited girls. We like to dream big. And so, so what's bigger than like global chrysanthemum domination for the U.S. farmers?
Right. Let's just say like right now, we're pretty much doing the Pokemon Go version of chrysanthemums. Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all. I love that. So, okay, you guys, I know I missed it, and I was really sad that I missed your mom summit. So, and I wanted to find out, because you had it at the beginning, of the month here in November. Can people still go back and get like tickets or go find it virtually and still see it? Because it's y'all, it's the moms, it's Dave. It's
right.
It's a package.
Yeah, you can. So if you go to our Facebook page and under events, you can go under past events, find the virtual mom summit. And when you click on that, you'll see kind of in the details that it has the price of $14.99, and then you can purchase it and get all of the review plus the Q&A, which was juicy.
All right, but there's a caveat. You can only do that on desktop.
Do
not try to do that from your phone. For some reason, Facebook is weird.
They haven't, it was our first time using classes on Facebook, and while I think that there are definitely some things they need to work on, it actually was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll say it was actually pretty good, and I'm not mad at it, and I'm not ready to walk away from it. I think it's just really new, and I have no doubt that I do have doubt that somebody read my support chat things, but I really think potentially they're going to fix the bugs. How's that?
Okay, so but you just have to be on your desktop, laptop, whatever, to get to it on Facebook.
To get into it, and I will tell you that was wildly fun. It was our first year doing it. We had this idea. We actually had two events back to back. we had our virtual summit, and the next day we had Mom Showcase where people could come in person. And we knew we were going to do Showcase, but darn it, I have a community that's all over the place. And if they can't come to the farm, I wanted to bring the farm to them. Yep. So we decided to do this virtual event. And it was a rundown from early, mid, and late, from our trials to the heirlooms with our grow team, what we loved, what we didn't, what did well, what performed well in propagation versus what sold well across the design table. It was phenomenal. We took a lot of Q&A, and it was definitely something that we will be doing in the future. And we have more guest stars coming that have already asked. So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Well, that's, I'm really excited. I have to go get that myself because I want to see it. And I also would like, I always like to end the podcast with an advice question. And since I have both of you here, it's like a BOGO, and you can each give me a piece of advice for anybody.
What's yours? I have a few.
I have one. No, you go, and then I'll do mine, because mine will either give people yeah, or I'm gonna have anxiety. So you do yours and I'll end with mine.
This is literally how I live my life. Either I'm yeah, or I have anxiety. I would say the best piece of advice that I ever got was don't let good stand in the way, or don't let perfect stand in the way of good. Just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist. That was really hard for me to learn, but I can tell you the minute that I just put something out there that was good enough, my life became a lot easier. And then I was able to perfect it. You're never going to do anything if you wait for it to be perfect. Just start, just wing it. It's fine. Trust, it's just fine. That's it.
Okay. Mine goes right on that, actually.
Oh, great.
You doing something big? Close your eyes and run real fast.
Good.
Wow.
Close your eyes and run real fast.
I've never heard that before. And I can totally, I've got some things going on myself, and I think I'm going to embrace that. You have inspired me to close my eyes and run real fast. That's
just do it.
Just do it.
Nike.
Just do it. I love that.
Listen, when you build a beautiful community like this, you have the support around you. You're safe. Close your eyes, run real fast.
Scott, you can do anything. You have tons of friends. You have lots of friends. I don't know what you would even be holding yourself back from. You got this. And if there's anything that we can even do to help to remove things out of your way while you're running with your eyes closed, you just let us know.
Okay, I'll do that. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the Flower Podcast.
Yay! Thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure, man. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. That's a lie. I want to be in my jacuzzi tub right now. That's where I'm going to
That's
go.
where she always wants to be. That's not going to twist it. She never wants to be anywhere except for her bathtub.
That's where I do my best business meetings.